So you can see the Batala Palace behind me and lots of tourists everywhere taking pictures, including the monks behind me. But also you can see in the square that there are obvious signs of who is in charge now. You see that behind me are Xi Jinping, Hu Jintao, Deng Xiaoping, and various other Chinese leaders. And way back on the mountain, which you can't see, it says, "Long live the motherland." I just got back from a 6-day trip in Tibet organized by the government. The only way the journalists can go into Tibet is if they go with the government. You need a written letter of approval to get in. The purpose of the trip was to show us how the government is alleviating poverty in Tibet. We saw a lot of local Tibetans who had been relocated from grasslands to places around Lhasa, around some of the larger cities in Tibet. I'm here at a relocation village in Tibet. We're not far from the Lhasa airport. This place was designed to house families who are being moved down from over 4,800 meters above sea level. Above that elevation, it's generally thought that the environment is not hospitable for humans to live. So we are here in Lhasa. We are staying at the Intercontinental Hotel here in the city. And it has a few amenities that I think you will find in very few hotels around the world. Specifically, I wanted to show you our oxygen supply button. That's right. If you are not getting enough oxygen, you can turn that on and they will pipe it into the room for you. When we went this time, there's just construction everywhere. Buildings, railways, highways. They're also planting trees all over the place. They're providing access to safe drinking water, healthcare. But at the same time, it's also obvious that these things are being provided because the government knows that by providing these things, they can obtain the loyalty, they can buy the loyalty of the local population. Some of the strategies that the government has used have been controversial. The most controversial of those have been relocations. The villages that we visited, obviously the people living there are things about it that have made their lives better. But the other thing that was very noticeable is their way of living has changed tremendously. This is a company that employs about 150 people to produce fruits and vegetables. All of them earn about 50,000 yuan a year, which is a very good salary. One thing though is this is not what you would expect Tibet to look like. And that's one of the main criticisms of this strategy, is that it's inexorably changing Tibetan culture and could potentially be wiping it away. Another criticism has been that these villagers, these herdsmen have been coerced, forced to move. We didn't see evidence of that, but again, we were on a government-organized trip, and so everyone we spoke to we were taken to by the government, and because most of the people we spoke to only spoke Tibetan, we could only speak to them through a translator, and most of the time that translator was a government official. But if there was coercion, we didn't see it, and we didn't see any widespread or noticeable signs of it. As far as we could tell, that the people we spoke to were happy to move. They were glad that they had moved. It abuts this 4,000-kilometer long border that China shares with Nepal, with other countries, but especially with India, which has had this intense confrontation with China since the summer. More than a dozen soldiers on both sides have died. The mountainous terrain of Tibet forms this natural security barrier for China, and so that's why it's so important. China wants to ensure that it controls this part of the world for national security reasons. The other thing is, locally, Tibet is quite different from the rest of China. Beijing's control over this territory has been fraught, to say the least, over the last couple of centuries. And so it wasn't until the late 1950s that the Chinese government sort of reasserted control over Tibet. In 2008, there were some really violent protests in Tibet. Since then, the Chinese government has been looking for ways to pacify the region.